So when I was about 4 years old, I distinctly remember being at my Uncle Tony's house, and he'd always be listening to Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, a lot of 90s grunge. And one band that I got really turned on to was Blink-182. And that really took off when my older brother Danny started listening to that style of music. And when I was about 8 years old, I knew that I wanted to be a musician. I wasn't sure if I wanted to play guitar or bass or drums. I was still trying to figure that out, but I wound up getting my first drum set on my 9th birthday, and that's when I knew that drums were definitely for me. And so when I started drumming, I looked heavily to Travis Barker of Blink-182. The whole mohawk deal, the tattoos, the cool drum set with the drums all low and the cymbals super high and just having high energy and playing really fast. I was into that very much. But the more I played and practiced every day, the more I fell in love with it, not just because it's fun, but because I really got to express myself. My older brother and I, we actually formed our first band, and it was a metal band, and we'd play different shows around the Sacramento area, and I didn't have any teaching up to this point. I had to teach myself how to drum, and I wound up just looking up YouTube videos and seeing different drummers at different venues, at the different shows that we played at, and saying, hey, what is it that they're doing? That looks really cool. And so I would take something that they did that I thought was amazing, and I would just try and copy it over and over and over again until I nailed it and until I put my own flair on it. And that's pretty much the way I wound up learning up until about my freshman year of high school, when I joined symphonic band and drumline and marching band. During those 4 years, I had a lot of coaching as far as learning how to read music and learning how to play different types of percussion, getting my hands on some timpani, concert snare drum, mallet percussion, you name it. I got to play all of that, and I got to really learn on that, and it was a lot of fun. At that same time, I still had another project with my older brother, and I had a new project with my younger brother who played bass. And so I had two bands that were going on at the same time, as well as being able to dive into the world of orchestral percussion in high school, as well as marching percussion. So I had these 4 years where I really got to grow more as a musician and as a drummer as well. When it came to graduating high school, I didn't really know what to do as far as school was concerned and what I'd want to study. I'd considered UC Berkeley and wanted to join the Blue Devils and do marching there. At around that same time, I had started going to church. I really got connected at the church I'm at now, and pretty much had to jump in there and learn a whole new style of music and get used to the ebb and flow of that. And I got introduced to going to William Jessup University, which is where I go now. And I'm actually there studying music and studying drums and percussion, and I'm working towards getting my bachelor's in the next year. And during that entire time, I really grew more and more in a shorter amount of time because I had help from Serge Lysak, who I got the privilege of studying under for a year, and then I got to study under Jonathan Witham. And during those few years with them, I've really grown so much to love every aspect of not just drumming and percussion, but of music and being able to connect to other people and relate to other people in that way. After I got to be exposed to many different styles of music, I looked to people like Questlove. Benny Greb was a huge influence as far as my musicality behind the drum kit. And recently, one of my biggest influences has been Robert Sput Seawright of Snarky Puppy, and that band as a whole has created some unbelievable music. And every time I listen to it, I get inspired to try something different, either in drumming or how I arrange different songs when I'm with different projects. Being able to be exposed to all these drummers and also looking more towards jazz in recent times has really expanded my vocabulary and has really broadened my my palette as far as what my taste is for drumming and for music, and it's been a really cool journey. When it comes to teaching, my main approach is relationship first. If I'm teaching, say, a really cool fill to one of my students, yet there's not much of a connection personally between me and them, they're not going to want to grasp it. They're not going to be inspired. And what I try and do is find different ways that I get to really know them, see how they learn, if they're more of a hands-on learner, if they're more visual, or if I just talk through it. That's one of the biggest things that I've seen in my experience of teaching that has helped students so much, is being able to really get to know them. In the same way, in a band setting or when I just practice on my own, I focus a lot on the relationships between the different people as well as the communication. When playing behind the kit, I want to make sure that my ideas come across the way I intend them to do, and that I'm aware of what I'm playing and what I'm saying through it, because I can play whatever I want, but if I forget it or I'm not considerate of the other musicians or the setting that I'm in, it's kind of pointless. So relationship first and being strong with communication are the two biggest factors into my teaching approach. I'm using vintage 1960s Ludwig drums. I have a 22 kick drum, 13-inch rack tom, 16-inch floor tom. I have a variety of different snares. I switch between a Tama SLP 14 by 5.5 steel snare, and on my right I normally use a 14 by 8 SLP steel snare, and I have it tuned really low, almost getting that sput fat snare sound, which I really just have fallen in love with. First and best choice is vinyl cymbals. I've really grown to love them in the past few years. My favorite ride currently that I've been using, the Mike Johnston transition ride, and to pair with that really nicely would be the Byzance Jazzden hi-hats, and they're so versatile. No matter what vinyl cymbals I get, they always work really well in every setting that I use. I use all Aquarian. I use the Super Kick 2 on the batter, the kick, and the regulator resonant on the kick drum as well. Snare and toms, I tend to go response 2s all the way across the board. On rack toms, I use a single ply clear drum head, and on my floor tom, I'd use a double ply. I'm using Vader drumsticks and mallets and brushes. The particular stick I've been into a lot more these days is the Vader Mike Johnston 2451 maple sticks. And what I found with maple sticks is they give a lot of a softer feel without having to sacrifice the size and without having to sacrifice your expressibility, and they're just perfect for every genre.